So welcome everyone. I am so glad to see you all here tonight. Thank you so much for coming. We have a lot to do together in the next hour and a half. So I'm just going to jump right in. But before we begin officially, I'd like to note that this meeting will be recorded and posted to the project website for future viewing. Also, please keep your camera off during presentation times in the main room. You may turn your camera on during breakout room sessions if you would like. My name is Tracy Bonashinsky, and I'm the Mid-Sound Fisheries Assessment Group Project Manager for the Lake City Floodplain Park project. It has been such a joy to work with the community to envision the future of this special place, and I am so looking forward to hearing from you tonight more. We'll be in the main room together for the first 20 minutes of the workshop, sharing information with you, and then you will be automatically moved into a breakout room for a brief small group discussion. After the first set of breakout rooms, we will all come back to the main room so that the project team can share more information. And then you'll be automatically moved back to the same breakout room you were in previously for a fun and interactive Build Your Park exercise. And then we'll have some more time together in the main room before we close for the evening. Lake City is a wonderfully diverse community. Your friends and neighbors have come here tonight bringing diverse backgrounds and experiences with them. So please be open, curious, and respectful as people share their unique hopes, dreams, and ideas for the park, and have fun designing. That's what we're here to do tonight. I would like to introduce the organizations that comprise the project team. Mid-Sound Fisheries Enhancement Group is a nonprofit dedicated to boots on the ground, salmon recovery, and watershed restoration with local communities. We are honored to partner with Seattle Parks and Recreation and Seattle Public Utilities to engage the Lake City community in envisioning the future of the site and in early planning and design. We are working with two really fantastic technical consultants, David O Consulting Group and the Watershed Company. You will see many of us from all of these organizations here tonight listening to you so that we can incorporate your feedback into the design of the park. We are at the very early stages of the project still. This is the second of 3 community workshops to be held this year. We expect to choose a park design with you near the end of 2022, and that planning and design will be refined the following year. Construction of the park is projected to happen sometime in late 2024 or 2025. There has already been some weed removal on site, and you may continue to see such activity as well as possible native plantings throughout the project planning and design period. Our goal tonight is to share what we heard from you in workshop number 1 and related outreach, think together about how community priorities relate to Thornton Creek and floodplain reconnection goals, and gather community feedback about where park ideas might be located. So this feedback will be incorporated into the next stage of our work, which we will present to you in workshop number 3 in the winter of 2022. So one of our overarching project goals is to create a space that connects a diverse Lake City community to an improved, accessible natural area. This is your park, and we cannot design it without you. Our other overarching project goals are to restore Thornton Creek on the property to a more natural state, to reduce large-scale flooding, to create and restore habitat for salmon and wildlife, and to improve the health of Thornton Creek, its watershed, and the surrounding community.
Hey, Tracy. Should we be seeing the slides right now?
Yes, can you see the slides?
No.
You cannot see the slides. Oh dear. Thank you for telling me that.
There we go. Now we can see the slides.
Yeah,
Oh,
we can see it.
yay.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you for letting me know. I think most of they were just words in the beginning, so you haven't missed much. This is the real important one. It has a map on it. So I know many of you have at the very least walked by the project site, and some of you are nearby neighbors who are very familiar with it. We have a map here to help us all locate the site in the context of a larger neighborhood. The future park site is on Northeast 125th Street between 23rd and 24th Avenues Northeast. It is just a handful of blocks away from the Lake City branch of the Seattle Public Library, west of Lake City's Civic Core. Okay, now I am so excited to take you on a virtual tour of the project site with my dear project teammate, Amber McClusick. The video will likely be laggy for you over Zoom, but I think it's still worth watching as a way to take you into the site best we can in a virtual format. We have posted this site tour to the project website as well, so it's under informational materials on the project website. So you may go back and watch it there anytime, and it's really rather sweet, so I hope that you do. And here we go. I am Tracy Bodashinsky. I am the project manager for this project at Mid-Sound Fisheries Enhancement Group. We are partnering with the City of Seattle, both Seattle Public Utilities and Seattle Parks and Recreation to bring this park to life. Hi, I'm Amber Pulisic. I'm a landscape architect at the Watershed Company. I'm a member of the consultant team. It's been so fun to work with you, Amber. Do you want to go into the site and take a look around? Absolutely. So we have a lot of really beautiful native trees on the site. It's a priority. I know for the community, trees are a priority, and for us as a project team, they're a priority. And we're really looking forward to taking care of the trees on the site.
Yeah, we've enjoyed one of the great things about here just today has been the birds. There have been birds back and forth in the trees. Sound of the leaves rustling in the rain that are there. It's great. I think just part of the character. So above us and kind of around us, we've got the trees, as Tracy was mentioning, but we're also really surrounded in this, lush, beautiful mosaic of plants. There are some lovely natives, giant ferns along the side of the creek. And then knowing that, this was a residential yard, there's quite a bit here that was also planted. So we have some bamboo and some floral. And then behind me, peeking through everything else are some of the things that just showed up. So there's quite a bit of ivy throughout this site, some growing up the fences and trees. There's blackberry. There's a number of things. So a lot here. So we are standing near an area behind us that currently is mapped and delineated as wetland. And historically, where Thornton Creek would have come over its bank and been connected to its wetlands. Wetlands have gotten a real bad rap in our culture, so we've spent a lot of time filling them in, trying to make them not wet. But we're now understanding more and more how important wetlands are to the health of our environment and how many ecosystems they provide to us. Right. So a lot of what we talked about is the armoring and constriction of the creek. And so, as Tracy mentioned, this is the place where normally prior to that constriction, the creek would have been free to sort of flex into this space. And so, by removing the armoring on the creek and giving some assistance to the decline of the creek's channel, we can hope to reestablish the floodplain in this area, and that'll actually help to prevent flooding at other places along the stretch of the creek. We're standing at the west edge of the park property where Thornton Creek enters the project. So all along this stretch, there's rockery and there's wood curb walls. And we have historically done that to creeks to try to keep them in a channel and to keep them in place. And they don't like to. Like, that's not a natural, normal state for a creek to be in. And as Tracy mentioned, all of that is restricting the creek's natural ability to swell a little bit. Instead, it just fills up and overtops. So here we are walking on some of the steep slopes on the site. What I really love about these slopes is that when I'm standing at the very top, such as on the sidewalk that is right outside the site,
you can really see into the whole. And I love that, having this feeling of a bird's eye view. One of the things that we need to be mindful about when we're thinking about the steep slopes is that they are prone to erosion and so need to be protected from that. These slopes happen to have a lot of ivy and such that will be removed over the course of the project, and then we can replant with native plants that will be better, that have better root systems for stabilizing the slope. It feels so exciting to have so many different ecological features on this site, not just the steep slopes, but the creek and the floodplain, the trees and the wetland. It's a really special place.
I'm walking through the site with you today, Amber, and it's so beautiful. I'm so excited to be doing this project with you and with the community. Thank you so much for coming along on the tour with us. And I am really so excited to see what kind of park you build in this workshop today.
Okay, I hope you all enjoyed that tour. And I have to say, it's not quite the same as being there in person, so I hope you all will walk by and enjoy it in person too. So for the next portion of the presentation, I am very pleased to give you Amber McClusick, Senior Landscape Architect and Principal at the Watershed Company.
Thanks, Tracy. So Tracy brought you up to speed on where we are in the project, and we've seen a site tour. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing behind the scenes that is only possible because of the participation that you guys have committed to in terms of really seeing this park become a beautiful community place. So through our all of the feedback we received at workshop 1, but also really all of the other communication and conversations that have happened about the park, whether it's participation through feedback provided on the website or through surveys, through comments that have been passed to the project team. That is all starting to form a picture about what the community is thinking and feeling. What are the ideas that they have for this park? What are some concerns and questions? And then what's the tone of that conversation? So that comes to us in kind of a bunch of data points that are all a little bit scattershot. And so in order to start to turn the community conversation about the park into really actionable design guidance that will help us use the community's feedback to create a park design, we start to analyze that feedback like you would a literature review, where you're looking for commonality of different comments that people are making. What are our popular issues of discussion? What are critical issues of concern that people are speaking about? And starting to distill that down to how are we looking at this park as a potential future place. So we'll go through all that data, organize it and categorize it. And then we start to map it and chart what the direction that data is pointing us in. So if we go to the next slide, we have an example of one of the feedback charts that we created based on all of the feedback that was gathered really up until today's workshop. So this is a summary showing net positive mentions. So by that, we mean someone saying, I'd love to see this at the park, and someone saying, I would not like to see this at the park. So this is an example of a positive versus a negative mention. And this chart categorizes them based on positive minus negative mentions. So someone saying, I think we should have a trash bin. And then the next person saying, pack in, pack out, no waste bins at the park. So that is actually what we received. So we have a net 0 comment on waste bins. And so you see it here in the right-hand column with things that were mentioned either 1 or fewer in terms of net positive. So the chart on the left starts to categorize these not as a prioritization in terms of the top ideas will get chosen and the lower ideas will not, but it starts to say, where are the common trends in ideas that people have and what they're discussing? And what we love to see is that the community really has some common ideas about, what's the vision for this park. We have some ideas that were mentioned just a few times, but the bulk of the conversation was really focused in common ideas, common themes, and a common conversation. So if we move forward, what we were able to do is take the categorized data from all of the community feedback and discuss that with the project sponsors, the City of Seattle, Seattle Public Utilities, Seattle Parks and Recreation, Mid-Sound Fisheries Enhancement Group, and to talk to them about, not just here's what everybody's saying in abstract, but here is what they're saying that's common and trends and the direction that it's pointing. And so based on that information, we were able to develop a program of park ideas that came out of the community conversation, but is in line with the city's own vision for how the park would be developed. So each of these ideas, while not representing the top ideas in order, are representative of what the top of the conversation was talking about. So many people spoke about seating, but there wasn't specificity about where or how that would occur. Same thing with walking. A lot of people talked about wanting to have a place to walk quietly, but again, that wasn't a concrete direction of walking should be here. So while this is a common presentation of park ideas that has consensus based on what we saw from the community and is supported by the city's own vision, again, it's not meant to be exhaustive, and each of these ideas is flexible. So in the next slides, I'm going to read through each of the ideas so that we have an idea of each one, but know that there's kind of an assemblage of images for each idea, and it's not meant to be the only way that that idea can be exercised. Decisions about where and how these ideas will be implemented have not been made yet. So for the park program ideas, we have nature appreciation, walking, seating, interpretive exhibits, nature exploration, restoration, conservation, native plants, quiet spaces, wildflowers, walking trails, boardwalks, wildlife watching, bike rack, and art. Oh, and scenic overlook, one more. So what comes next? So we've taken the feedback received to date, we've categorized it so it points us in some directions of what's the consensus points that are there with the community. And then we've worked with the project sponsors to articulate that into a vision. So the vision is just a bunch of ideas, and we really need to think about how can those concretely be implemented into the park, and where might the community like to see them. So what's ahead for us today is 2 breakout room exercises that Tracy will go into more specifically, but we'll have a chance to discuss the ideas, to talk about them and ask questions. And then we'll be doing an exercise where those will be placed actually on a map of the park. So we'll be able to talk about what ideas might work well together, what ideas should be spaced apart, what ideas weren't represented in the list of ideas that we presented earlier. So are there other things that you would like to see that would complement the park program and vision? And we'll be doing that in groups in the breakout. So Tracy's going to provide more information on that as we get closer. After we do this exercise, the project team is then tasked with taking all of the ideas. So these are actual park designs that were created by community members using that program of ideas that we talked about over a map at the Lake City Farmers Market. So the images that you saw before were some kids participating in this exercise and going through the same type of conversation that we do as a design team to start to figure where these ideas will work well. So when this workshop is finished, we will take all of the designs that were made by community members and we'll do the same thing that we did with the community conversation. We'll start to look for common trends and ideas in terms of where people put things and then what those start to form in terms of a park design. We'll then actually create park designs from those ideas, and then we'll be presenting those at workshop 3. I'm going to hand it back to Tracy to talk more about the breakout rooms.
Thank you so much, Amber. And now we are so excited to hear from you. Thank you for listening to us for so long. In order for us to hear from as many people as possible, we'll be pushing everyone into breakout rooms for the next portion of the meeting. One of our goals for this set of breakout rooms is to give you a chance to ask any questions that you might have about park ideas and to help you become more familiar with them through discussion before you engage in the Build Your Park exercise. These breakout room discussions will be recorded, and a note taker in each room will capture your questions, thoughts, and ideas. So things are gonna get back to me. If you can't get a question answered now, know that I'll be looking out for those and responding. Once in your breakout room, your discussion facilitator will make a brief statement and then open discussion. Please feel free to turn on your camera if you would like, and please stay on mute unless you are speaking. Use the raise hand function in Zoom or use the chat to share questions and comments. Your discussion facilitator will give a tutorial on how to use the Zoom raise hand function if anyone needs it. The chat will be monitored and also saved. After the breakout room discussions, we'll come back together into the main room where we will hear from one another and share more information ahead of the second set of breakout rooms where we'll be doing the Build Your Park exercise, actually getting to place those ideas on the maps. As a reminder, please be open, curious, respectful of one another, and have fun talking to each other. Here we go. Amani will push us out into breakout rooms. Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. That was a short, a real short discussion, but thank you for having it. I need to find my notes. Here they are. Okay, so I'm so excited to get to hear brief reports from everyone. So I am going to call the breakout rooms in order, and then a facilitator or note taker from each group will do a share out to the whole group so that we can all hear each other in this way. So breakout room 1, can someone from breakout room 1 let us know what happened in your breakout room?
Sure, I can share. This is Amber. So the initial tone of the comments was that they are all passive elements that seem appropriate or consistent with a nature-based park experience. We had some questions about what regulations might be applicable to these. And so we talked about how it's not necessarily the elements themselves, but the elements in terms of their proximity to the creek, and that we would talk about that a little bit later about how regulations might impact development or park improvement. Someone had the idea that things like seating, walking, trails, and boardwalks, that those could work together in concert, so be kind of nestled together, and that there was the desire to incorporate Indigenous names or art or ideas into interpretive elements and things. And then there was also some discussion about the potential to expand the floodplain restoration outside of the boundaries of this park to adjacent properties.
That sounds like a fantastic conversation. So I was in breakout room 2, and we had a lovely conversation. We noted that there was a great deal of overlap between some of the park ideas, and that they could, although it seemed like there was a lot, and there was a concern about making sure that the people in my breakout room were concerned about making sure that we didn't crowd the space, and we're very sensitive about thinking about the size of the whole when we were thinking about placing different park ideas, but that also that a lot of the ideas were kind of harmonious with each other and overlapping, and that could sort itself out as we went. We also did talk about the floodplain and its importance, and really wanting to make space for that, and wondering what it would take to really honor the floodplain and what that would mean for public access to the park. And then accessibility to the park was it seemed like a very strong value in our room. People were thinking about the steep slopes that do exist, even at the entrance where the current driveway is, it's relatively steep there. So people were thinking about, what it would be like for people with different mobility needs to traverse those steep slopes and get into the park. How about breakout room 3?
That's me. Hi. that went really fast, so I apologize. I hope that our second session to share out is more productive. There were some concerns. They didn't see on the tiles having wheelchair accessibility. And so just to be thoughtful of that, we added a sticky note. And then in terms of the park interpretive signs, they like the idea, but the person who spoke up, because this used to be a private landowner, they don't really know necessarily what you might focus on. And so we're interested in that idea of what that would look like. And then there was a comment about bathrooms. If it'd be great to have them, but it could also be great if they do have them, it might create visitors who might use them for different purposes. So just something to consider. And I think we got 2 of those 3 comments on sticky notes, but I'll try and go back there and add it.
Yeah, everything is being recorded and written down, so we're not going to lose anybody's ideas or feedback.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. How about breakout room 4?
Breakout room 4, our participants were supportive of all of the ideas and noted the importance of, again, accessibility and safety, not just within the park itself, but making sure that it's safe and accessible to get to the park. The importance of learning opportunities for youth, and that it be incorporated at all stages of the project, including in the final design, and that there's an opportunity for interpretive signs to highlight the Indigenous history, as well as the name of the park could honor Indigenous history as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. How about breakout room 5?
We had some also sentiments of really prioritizing the floodplain and making sure that that is a top priority for whatever ideas get implemented in the park. One of our participants brought up the very insightful comment that 125th Street is not a completely bike accessible, bike friendly road, so there might not be as much need for bike racks if people aren't getting there by bike as much. So I thought that was a really important thing to consider. And also we had some ideas about educational, interactive areas, but also places for quiet spaces to relax and enjoy. So maybe where that might fit in the park if 125th Street might be a little loud. So we're excited to get into the tile activity to plan that out. We had a few more ideas. I think we're interested in having a boardwalk to cross the creek, and curious about how large the creek will be and making sure that the floodplain is still the first priority. That's what we got.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then breakout room 6.
All right, I took notes in that one. And we started off with, here, I need to find my notes. The question was, what are the plans for the creek and the things that need to happen for restoration? We had a lot of focus on a lot of creek-centric discussion in our breakout room. How much space is it accounted for example, like, can a soccer field be constructed? And then we showed the map, we panned over in the mural board. And the next session, I think it's going to be clear what spaces, what the different spaces are available. Yeah, another comment, like to see the creek highlighted itself, the health of the creek, and then the aquatic life in the creek. Can that be explored? Pollution aspects would be interesting information. Native history, also information about the project, why it's being done. The comment was, it sounds like interpretive exhibits would be good for those items to help connect us with the creek. Comment about if art is involved, are there certain organizations to be involved? Have they already been engaged? And then advocating for Indigenous art would be cool. Another comment about nature exploration and other activities that is done in a durable and sustainable manner, not to negatively impact the waterway. And then a very good comment towards the end. They're all good. There's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of activities, a lot of features. And the question was, have we prioritized things yet? And if not, when? And, you know, some things are more expensive than others. You know, what is the budget? And, you know, and has there been any prioritization to date?
That's a great share. Thank you, everybody, so much. Amani, I was just kicked out of screen share and I don't know why. Let me try again. Okay, while we get that sorted out, I loved that I got to get a little peek into the conversations in each room, even though I couldn't be in each room. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm really looking forward to going back over these recordings and the notes to really taking it all in. And then in the meantime, I'm going to welcome Amber back to talk more about the site in preparation for doing the build your screen exercise. Okay, there we go. Oh, no, that did not work. Here we are, we're back online. Yay, lots of thumbs up. Okay, so Amber.
Yes, so I will just jump right in. So I think this is some of the information that it sounded like we had a lot of questions about in the Park Ideas Share was where are these things going to go? What's the discussion about the creek and the floodplain? And so what we have here is a site characteristics map. So this is a very simplified figure that starts to show some of the features that we talked about in the video and some of the features that are really central to the identity and character of this property, but also really central to the goals of this project. So in terms of a creek realignment that helps to restore a floodplain and helps to improve the overall health of Thornton Creek, its watershed, the potential creek alignment and the potential restored floodplain are items here. But we also have the goal of this project being an open space park for the community to enjoy. So I'm going to go through the legend of items on this map. So we've got some areas of mature evergreen canopy. Those are the kind of shaded green with the dashed line. So this includes our large and mature existing trees. It's evergreen canopy that provides shade both to the property and to the creek. So we know that it's things like extensive digging within the canopy can damage tree roots, but we also know that these things are a beautiful part of the character. So something that we'll want to consider when we're looking at what the park ideas might look like. So the park does have steep slopes, which we showed at the video. These are largely adjacent to the roadways in the southeast corner. The ground is steeply sloping, making it difficult to access and to walk across. A couple people mentioned accessibility. That's of course a major concern. Anytime we provide a park, we want to make sure that it's accessible to as much of the public as possible. So we would want to have that consideration. We also know that steep slopes are at higher risk of erosion. So the potential creek alignment, we know that we're very early in the project. The project schedule for this current part of the effort is really to get us to something like 10% design, but there's a bunch of design work that's going to happen after. So what we know is that based on early engineering studies, the creek and its banks might be realigned within the area that's shown here. So once restored, the area is going to be regularly flooded potentially, but the actual creek alignment is going to be set later on in the project. So for now, we know that this whole area is going to be related to the creek, but whether or not it's going to be actual creek channel has yet to be decided. So the potential restored floodplain is the shaded area that stretches out from the creek to the northeast of the property. The floodplain might be restored within this area, but again, it hasn't really been pinned down yet. So if it is restored to a floodplain, this area is likely to have wet soil and it's going to experience seasonal flooding. The actual floodplain extent is going to be set later on in the project. So if we go to the next slide, what we do as park designers is look at not just what the features are, but how do those influence where ideas can come to life. So we've categorized the park based on some of the features that you just saw into what we call high feasibility for park ideas, moderate feasibility, and low feasibility. High feasibility includes areas that are open, so where tree impacts are not likely. or already disturbed areas and areas that are outside of regulated critical areas in their buffers. Now, this would especially be areas in this case that are easy to access for accessibility, but that would also have a low likelihood of flooding. So you can see that those areas that we would call high feasibility for placement of park ideas are mainly the area that's easily accessed off of Northeast 125th Street in the southwest portion of the park. And then really the northeast portion of the park in that high corner where we already have a structure that's on a little bit higher ground than the area that's south of that. So moderate feasibility areas. These are areas that will have regulatory limitations, may not be easily accessible, and they may contain sensitive features like trees where we need to consider them. Does that mean that these areas can't be used? Not necessarily, because remember in our park program, we saw things like wildlife watching, and we saw things like quiet spaces, even just walking trails, or things like native plants. Those might all fit very well in an area like this. So low feasibility, these are areas that are likely to have substantial regulatory restriction. So these might be in critical areas or directly adjacent to them. These areas might be inaccessible or very difficult to access. So for example, someone mentioned a creek crossing. We know that a creek crossing does make one side of the creek more difficult to access if there is no crossing there. So great discussion in the prior room. That's definitely going to lead us up into this next discussion. These areas might experience regular or frequent flooding. They may contain critical infrastructure. One example of critical infrastructure that's not going to be modified as part of this project is the culvert. So this is the culvert that's located, you can see it on the image there, towards the center south part of the park. That's not flexible in this project. So this is the map that we're going to be looking at in breakout room 2. It'll be this exact one. So I think we've got one more slide. Next one. So what we're going to be doing is looking at that map, and we're going to be talking about these park ideas more concretely in terms of where they might go, where they might work well together, what ideas should be far apart, and how these ideas respond to those low, moderate, and high feasibility for placement of park ideas. So I'm going to turn it back to Tracy to provide some more feedback or some more direction on what we're going to do in breakout room 2.
Thank you so much, Amber. And now it's time for the Build Your Park exercise. You'll be automatically taken to the same breakout room you were in previously. Again, we will be taking notes and recording these breakout rooms. Please feel free to turn on your camera if you would like, if you have a camera, and please stay on mute unless you are speaking. The chat will again be monitored and saved. After the breakout room exercise, we'll come back together in the main room where one community member from each breakout room, if you would like, no one will be forced, will share about their group's park design, and the project team will share more information about next steps. So just as a reminder, again, just be open, curious, respectful of one another, and have fun designing together. I'm so excited to see what you'll come up with. Are you okay, Henrik? Okay. Did I get the sound right there? Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, I'm getting a nod. Good. Welcome back, everyone. That felt like too short to me. In fact, I was in the middle of asking my dear park designers if there was anything they wanted me to change, and then they went away. But that was really wonderful. I had a great time in that breakout room. I hope you all did too. I find it a really fun and engaging exercise. And I hope you do too. So here is where, I'm gonna find my notes again. What I'm gonna say. I would like to invite, we didn't decide about community. In my breakout room, we were supposed to pick a community member to share. So did breakout room 1, did you select a community member to share from your breakout room? And if you did, I would love to hear what kind of park you designed. And Amber, if you have the ability to share your screen to, I guess I probably have to stop sharing. To show
Yes,
the mirror boards?
I will share them. We did not.
muted.
Oh.
We can hear you, Amber.
Okay, so we did not hear, or we did not choose anyone. I forgot to pose that question to the breakout group. Is there anyone who is a participant in breakout room 1 who might want to speak to our design? I'll show it on the screen and then you can just share some of the thoughts about what we designed. If anyone in breakout room 1 wants to raise their hand.
I thought you did a great job, Amber, the last time.
Go ahead.
Okay, Hugh is a neighbor of the park. Hugh, do you want to be the community member that presents our park design?
If you could share your screen. Then
Yes.
Yes.
I will do that. Thank you, Hugh. I appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah, very small. Okay, so yeah, we had I think an acknowledgement that there's a couple areas for quiet spaces under the mature canopies of on both sides of the stream there. I think a real wise acknowledgement that any of the infrastructure type amenities like bike racks and art and interpretive science would go right up by 125th, where they're really accessible to the public and kind of welcome people into the park. There was a discussion about how people access the backside and whether a bridge over the stream is needed. Maybe a trail could be put over the existing culvert to wrap around in some fashion, keeping in mind that ADA slope gradients would need to be followed, and so that should be explored. Potentially an elevated bridge that would allow vegetation to grow under it is another idea that was talked about. Another theme in our breakout session was the size of the park being just a little over 1 acre, and trying to avoid not trying to fit every single amenity into a very, very small space, sort of respecting the space and allowing nature to sort of take its course, and just not try and cram too many uses into one spot. If I left anything out, Amber, is that a good summary? Or community members, please pipe in if you have anything to add.
I think the one thing that was mentioned was that the steep slopes in this area might be a great place for an elevated boardwalk that provided an overlook into the park. And that the idea of maybe a little memorial that said that a house was once here might be appropriate, since it was the red house loved and known by the neighborhood.
Great. I love it. Oh, I think I've got feedback. Oh, is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, super. Breakout room 2, that was my breakout room, and we also did not assign somebody to speak. Lynn, Brad, or Jimmy, I would love if any one of you would be willing to share your thoughts. And if you don't feel comfortable, I will do it, but I'm gonna wait for just a second for one of you to jump in.
I'm happy to if no one else wants
Here's
to.
Jimmy.
Okay, yeah, also trying to see this tiny screen.
Are you unmuted, Jimmy?
I am.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It was my audio. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so I noticed I'm getting some feedback. I noticed that some of our icons were in similar places to the previous group, and also had some common themes, such as exploring this northern boundary to see if it's possible to have a thoroughfare kind of situation. This green line was where we were thinking a boardwalk could be to connect these two high feasibility areas together, and if it is possible to have an exit / entrance of the park on the north side, just kind of strengthening the case for this boardwalk being in this general area. Also talking about boardwalks because it's a floodplain, and making sure that the floodplain remains the #1 priority, and don't want to encourage or allow folks the opportunity to kind of tramp around in that area. trips around in the area. Also recognizing that the northern end is a good area for quiet areas, seating, things like that. But the boardwalk could be an opportunity to also have a platform similar to those at Meadowbrook, where there's boardwalks, but then also platforms and areas for seating or potentially art. Also looking at the southern end where the culvert is could be an opportunity to expand on the existing sidewalk and things like that, to add a scenic overlook and some signage, possibly doing something like that in the southeast side as well. And then also leveraging some of these low or moderate feasibility to have art installations. Again, Meadowbrook has some really interesting ones. And then this southern and mature canopy being an area to seat. Also looking at these sticky notes. So recognizing that Lake City is a very diverse community. So having Indigenous representation, but then also recognizing other cultures that are in the neighborhood. And also leveraging the some of the work that is already happening in the neighborhood, such as artists at Coyote North. There's a lot of mural projects in the neighborhood, things like that. Feel free to chime in if there's anything that I missed.
I think you did great. Thank you, Jimmy. How about a breakout room 3?
Hi, this is Peggy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you see our screen?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, first of all, ours is very similar to what people have said. We have a sign kind of at this lower left-hand corner. There was, for those walking by on the street here on 125th, there was an idea of placing a sign to help people envision what the park was like up above.
Watch a show.
And we made someone comment, which was seen on the other presentations, of let's have nature be the central part of this park. And so you see a lot of icons, and some said, well, we want all that to be native plants. And so, but it looks very busy with the icons. So I have appreciated that that was spoken. We liked the idea of the quiet area also, which people have mentioned in the mature canopy. There is this idea of how do you connect this southern part to the northern part if there's seating at the north and the south. So we have a walking trail and possibly a boardwalk over the stream to kind of link the two. The location wasn't really necessarily established. So if we saw other people who tried to go either around the culvert, that was very similar. And then keeping the amenities in this lower left-hand corner, whether it's the scenic overlook, the bench, the sign to help people understand what they're looking at and how important that floodplain is to the larger area. We had questions of where the entrances were. So we put the bike rack where the old driveway was. And some of our other comments that were brought up, obviously we wanted to not put trails through the wetlands. It was more of a question than not of what would that look like and how do we do that respectfully. We did talk about the sign over in this corner. And if there's at all possible, by restoring and adding these native plants, really optimizing the places for wildlife to be. There was a question of who will maintain this park in perpetuity, so going forward. Oh, in this upper left-hand corner, the question was, because we have neighbors surrounding it, what would be like the boundary? How would people know and differentiate where the park boundary was? And then we have art, I believe, in this area. So that is my summary.
Sounds fantastic. I love it. I love how thoughtful it all was. Thank you so much for sharing for your group, Peggy.
Yes.
How about breakout room 4?
We also neglected to ask anyone from our group if they wanted to present. So unless I see a hand shoot up, I'll just go ahead and share for our group here. So we had a lot of similar ideas to the previous 3 groups. We had a good amount of discussion about the divide in the middle of the park, and can the bridge go there? Can we do that without affecting the natural beauty too much? And can you really access the north high feasibility area of the park without a bridge? In which case, there were comments we'd be in favor of having a bridge in the park, just to make sure that back area is accessible. We also discussed that there's a concrete slab for the home, and we didn't know if that would be removed or not. But if it's going to remain, that would be an opportunity for either picnic tables or an art installation, something to that effect. We wanted to see seating incorporated into the park. We had a discussion whether that should be single seating or area for group gathering. I don't think we were very conclusive on that. There were arguments for both. We did think that having bikeability be included in the design of the project was important. There are people from the neighborhood who bike there or see people biking there and would like to make sure that's featured. We discussed, you can see on the south end there, what we could possibly do with the south bottom right corner with the port access. Perhaps that'd be a good spot for a viewing platform sort of over the culvert, just like another group suggested. Or if there's a way that that whole L area can be used as sort of a nature classroom in a way. We did feel like including a bathroom would be a nice feature for a public space, because it's a public service many people need to access. And yeah, I feel like that about covers what we discussed. Thank you.
I love it. I love that your group had so many questions, because I have so many questions too. I love that being so curious and open, and just like being in a questioning space feels really lovely. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you group for being so thoughtful and curious. How about breakout room 5?
Great. Let me share. Oh, I think I'm going to kick off the other sharing, but I think that's all right. So our breakout room had also a good number of tiles and some really cool ideas. We started off with wanting to make sure that there was some form of accessibility for this green area that is going to be a place where that driveway was. There were entrances, and also a bike rack for people who choose to bike in. We also had questions and thoughts about how much of the floodplain will be able to be like walking and hiking over. So we did decide that this, well, we thought that this path going like south to north on the west side might be less intrusive, covers like less of the red low feasibility area, and that it could be a boardwalk, which like the feel of that, it can be raised and seeing wildlife areas from there. We were saying like looking into this mature canopy, looking out into the mature canopy is a really great place to see wildlife, and maybe having some interactive and educational materials there to learn about what animals might be there, what kind of the natural environment is like. We like the idea of being able to access this green area. And we were curious about how we could also do that, as many other groups were wondering the same thing. And so that this green area, maybe around towards the mature canopy, can be a quiet space with a way to look out into the creek, with some seating areas and some wildflowers and native plants. One of the concerns was like the traffic noise from 125th Street. So maybe one of our members was saying that native plants and like a dense plant cover could help with like noise absorption, which I thought was really cool. And then back towards this east side, we were thinking about this poor access area might be an interesting place for some like integrated art that you can look at from both like the green, like the main entrance area, but also the steep slope area from the top of the park that you can see it even if you can't access it, and that there is already a railing there and should definitely still be a railing there if there's no walking place for safety. And you can look out into the native forest and plants and more information about the park and its purpose and the floodplain. And if there's art, we're hoping it is like integrated really nicely, maybe indigenous art or like matches the green naturey vibes. Yeah, I think we left this red low feasibility area kind of empty because of that big question about like what is possible there, but also because we wanted to let the park exist as its natural state. So I guess we could have put some native plants there, but yeah, a lot of really good discussions and ideas.
Cool. And your group came up with some ideas that I had not even considered. I love that.
We're glad.
Like that. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. How about breakout room 6, our last breakout room?
Okay, so
Oh, Gary. Hi, Gary.
hi. So we had some interesting conversations and ideas, and again, very similar. The entrance, we figured probably be in a similar area that it is currently. We have a bike rack. We're not really promoting biking in the park, so people would park their bikes out in this area. And then we had a oversight area kind of where you could kind of overlook the whole park with an interpretive sign of what was going on to invite people in. When you got into the park, we actually put a boardwalk in right through the floodplain area to the back. And with interpretive signs and plantings along that would talk about that or just the area in general, the history, some of those things. And also a little offshoot from that boardwalk that went over to this poor access area. So you could kind of look at the wildlife and sit down and enjoy that. At the front of the park, we talked about having, where it's steep, having kind of a little switchback trail path that people could, that wanted to, could take that switchback trail and do a little hike back and forth going down in this area, and maybe put some art or something as well that you could observe from this location where you're looking at the poor access area. Again, the idea of the boardwalk is really to make this accessible throughout the year and for folks that require this kind of, platform in order to move through the park. But we also have a path here that, and again, this area is not going to be flooded that much. My guess is probably 5 to 10% at the most. But so we did have a path going through that people could walk through to the mature canopy area, and some seating in this area to enjoy. Again, just like other areas, we thought this would be a good spot for kind of for quiet time and seating. And the other thing we said was mitts for mutts is that we want to have that at the entrance of this park. so that anybody that has a dog, if dogs are permitted in the park, is going to be able to get a mitt so they can take care of any waste that's going on. So yeah, so that's kind of, I think that hits everything that we talked about. If there isn't, if I missed something, let me know, but that's the deal. And this boardwalk, again, folks that are familiar with the Adopt-A-Streams situation, you know, kind of a similar, might be a little smaller, but it goes through obviously a wetland area that's wet more predominantly than this would be. But I would expect we'd have quite a few plantings along here that people could enjoy.
I love that. Thank you so much, Gary. I loved getting to hear that in your voice. Thank you so much. So you have now all, let's see, exit, spent 9 extra minutes with me. I am so appreciative that you are still here because I told you that we would end at 8. So I'm going to go really quickly through this next part out of respect for your time. I wish that I could just stay all here with you all forever and tell you how grateful I am that you have come and made these park sketches for us, but I'm going to gallop ahead instead. So our next steps. I'm very much looking forward to looking all of these designs over very carefully during the next part of our work as the team, the project team. As Amber had described earlier, as part of our next steps, the project team will analyze all the maps that all the park sketches, all the maps that you've created for us, and begin to kind of analyze them and synthesize all the park ideas, looking for commonalities, looking for differences that might allow us to refine the design into several different options, which we would then bring back and show you in workshop 3, which again will be in the winter of 2022. And in the meantime, we are available. You can contact me via the project website. The emails of each organization are represented on the project website. You can get in touch with me at Midsound, John Pagan at Seattle Parks and Recreation, Holly Scarlett at Seattle Public Utilities. We are all here to hear your ideas, and we encourage you to be in touch. So finally, thank you so much for taking time out of your Wednesday and staying with me now 11 minutes past the time that I promised I'd let you go. It was really an honor and a privilege to have you here, and we look forward to being in touch throughout the entire project. I also do need to give a great big shout out and huge thank you to King County for providing generous funding for early community engagement. Funding came from both the King County Flood Control District and the King County Wastewater Treatment Division. We are so grateful for their financial support. We couldn't do this project without them. Visit the project website for updates, and please feel free to contact any of us at any time. If you reach out to me and I can't answer your question, I'll forward it to the right person. I'll leave this slide up as people are leaving so you can write down our email addresses or take a screenshot. And this is all on the project website as well. Like I said, I just wish I could stay with you all forever and ever and your wonderful ideas here, but I am going to let you go for the night. Thank you so much again for your time and your energy and sharing your hearts and hopes and dreams for this park with us. Very much appreciate it. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.